So we are back. Obviously, no one is going to get excited when law firms are on Twitch, but never mind. Uh, so anybody who's here, thank you for joining us. We are just going to start our legal program. I am Richard Wee and my colleague Kimberly Chan. Together, we're going to discuss the case uh, involving Blizzard, right, Kim?
Yeah, Activision Blizzard.
Hmm. So Activision, okay, I'm going to ask a very uh, straight away. You know that I don't know. So this Activision is a company under Blizzard,
No, Activision Blizzard is the main company, and they have like subsidiaries, a few
and
subsidiaries.
this is Activision is one of the more sorry Blizzard the subsidiary company.
Yeah,
Okay,
they have Blizzard Entertainment, Activision Publishing. Yeah,
I've always heard of Blizzard often, and I know that they are a massive uh, esports publisher,
yeah.
right? Publisher, yeah.
Activision Blizzard
Okay,
is the HQ, I believe, like the main one. They
interesting.
develop games like World of Warcraft and Call of Duty. Yeah.
Well, one thing about Warcraft, it's a very old game. Even an old guy like me know about Warcraft. Actually, played it before, uh, but never really for. Like I said, like I told you before, Kim. If only had I known 10, 15 years ago that those games were going to become a money spinning, massive sports like what it is now, I would have continued playing it, man. Yeah, but to be fair, my passion was into different kind of video games. I was into like football manager, championship manager, very tactical, strategic kind of game. Whereas Warcraft and all that, yes, it's also tactical, but it requires also a lot of skills around the keyboard, which is something I was never fond of. So I think I would have been a disastrous esports player in any event. So okay, let's see this. Hang on. I'm just sharing our video live on Facebook. We are about 8 minutes early. Okay. All right. Uh, to everybody who's here, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be uploading this video later to YouTube once we sort out the video. This legal clinic is only for half an hour. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I am Richard Wee and my colleague Kimberly. We are both from RWC, Richard Wee Chambers. We're a law firm in Malaysia. And one of the areas of interest of our firm is this esports and streaming. We occasionally carry out this legal clinic, usually on a Monday at 4 p.m. But we've not been able to do so for the last few months. So we've been absent from Twitch. And I believe we are the few, if not the only law firm in Malaysia with an active or I wouldn't use the word active in the daily sense, but occasional appearance on Twitch. Yeah. So for today, ladies and gentlemen, Kimberly has an interesting case to share with us. How we intend to run the format will be like this. Kimberly will be, going through this case involving Activision and Blizzard. There's been a case where the matter is now brought to the attention of the American courts, isn't it, Kim? American
Superior
courts, right?
Court of California.
So it's in California courts, and involves some allegations of inequality of pay, allegations of sexual harassment, toxicity. There's a hint of the Me Too hashtag Me Too issue here. So I would like to address that. So maybe Kim, well, we're a bit early. We're supposed to start at 4. I don't think it's any harm for us to start our discussion now, Kim. Why don't you quickly give a background of this case we're talking about? Like, who is the complainant, and which authority took Blizzard to court. Maybe you can start with that first.
Okay, so the state of California actually just filed a lawsuit in July this year against Activision Blizzard, which is a parent company to the game developer Blizzard in Los Angeles. And this was actually spearheaded by the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And they conducted a 2-year investigation into Blizzard and Activision's workplace culture. They actually wanted to
Due to a
remedy
complaint,
the
sorry,
violations.
was it somebody complaining or lodging a complaint?
It was actually on behalf of they brought it to protect the public, the interest of the in the interest of the public, and not really to benefit any particular like private parties. So the remedies that they were seeking isn't the monetary remedies that they sought isn't the primary objective of the suit, because it's a
Okay.
class action. Yeah, so there are a lot of individuals I think that made complaints, and they brought it on behalf of the female employees mainly,
Mm,
because of all
mm.
the allegations of like unfair pay, sexual harassment, and then retaliation that the females employees received. And then the defendants being Blizzard's failure to prevent like discrimination, harassment in the workplace. Yeah,
I
and
remember reading this on Twitter actually.
I think so. I think it blew up everywhere. There's a lot of like cases on social media, so where people are like coming out and saying that they're talking about their experience in with Blizzard's staff,
Well,
like
okay,
higher
ladies and
level
gentlemen,
management.
I must say here, whatever Kimberly and I are discussing are all still allegations.
Mm.
These are allegations. We are not here at all to cast any aspersion on any company or person. We are not at all saying that one person is correct and the other person is not correct. But we are just reading out what is in the report. We are talking about what is being alleged. And then later on, we will have a general discussion on law without uh, without taking sides, actually, because we have no idea yet, right, Kimberly, who's
Yeah.
legally right or wrong here yet. There's no
Mhm.
decision yet, right? So we don't want to be accused later of defaming anybody. We are not. To the contrary, because it's a legal aid clinic. It's meant to assist the public. So this discussion is meant to be an open discussion to guide the public what this case is about, right? Kim, yeah. Okay, so go
Yeah.
on. This department took the action against started action against the Blizzard.
Mhm.
Can you list down roughly what are the allegations against Blizzard? Lebih
Okay,
kurang,
so there are lebih kurang there are a few allegations. They gave some examples, but they are mainly like a lot to do with, like I mentioned earlier, sexual harassment, discrimination against females, um, discrimination due to skin color, unequal pay, sexual harassment, and some of them were involving female employees, who most of which are always assigned to like lower level roles in the company. They don't get equal pay compared to their male counterparts, even though they carry out similar job scopes. Some even get passed on promotions, even though there's evidence that they have higher success rate in marketing campaigns executed, or they execute 2 times more marketing campaigns than their male counterparts. And the lawsuit actually goes on to specifically say that they noticed that in Blizzard, 20% only 20% of the workforce is female, and all
Mm,
of their previous CEO and higher level management have always been white males. And it's even evident in, I think they have official records that show that the female counterparts actually earn less for the same position or similar position compared to males in the company. And not only that, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the workplace that was complained about. Like they used this term frat house, if I'm not mistaken, it's called frat house. Yeah, a frat house
frat
culture.
house.
Yeah,
Oh,
a
okay,
frat
okay.
boy or frat house culture.
Frat boy, frat
Yeah,
boy.
frat boy.
I
Yeah.
think it's a fraternity. Mm.
Yeah. where and like male counterparts will always like sexually harass the female employees. You know, some male employees will like grope the female employees, and other people will notice that as well, but they won't. There's no like repercussion, you know.
Mm.
And then male employees will be like playing games during the work day in their office, you know, and delegating their jobs to females while they are like drinking and playing during office hours. And they even make fun of the female employees about
Mm.
um their pregnancies, you know, saying like, oh, maybe you can't get a promotion because you might one day get pregnant and enjoy being a mom too much that you will neglect your job or leave the
I
company, you know.
see. I see.
Yeah.
Very serious allegations, huh?
Yeah, so it's actually a 29 page, like the document is 29 pages, and it really details a lot of these incidents.
Mm. That's not good. Now, moving from there, this what has Blizzard got to say? I mean, in all fairness, we've been hearing only one side of
Mm.
these allegations. So far, do we have anything from Blizzard? What are their defense, or maybe even they could be attacking by saying, "Nah, these are all fictitious and created and blah blah blah," or did they explain? Okay, actually, what's happening is this and that. What you say is inaccurate. Is it anything like that, Kim?
From what I read, they have denied it. There are like some articles that talk about how the suit names like the former Blizzard's director,
Mm.
and like cites a few incidents where he was like allegedly harassing women, you know, at certain public events, or some of their staff like hanging out in hotel suites called the Cosby Suite, you know, after Bill Cosby. And Blizzard has like obviously refuted and said stuff like, oh, those were after his. I can't remember what they said. Hold on. I think they said something like it was. They basically denied it and said that they were giving a lot of excuses and saying that things were either it was already resolved or it was like
Mm.
he was before came into position, you know, or and stuff like that. Not really taking any accountability. Yeah.
I see. So far they don't look like they're number one. The Blizzard is clearly in defense. They
Mm,
are denying it that it happened. Um, and so far the department's case in the California, the DFEH, I remember, Department of
mm,
Fair Employment and Housing, right?
yeah.
So I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. So far, what we have heard so far from Kimberly, very good news narration, Kimberly. So she has narrated the news that the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH of America, have initiated a lawsuit in July 2021, which is a few months ago, at the Los Angeles Superior Court against Blizzard. This is a what we call is a public policy suit, where the authority take action on behalf of the public, and there's been allegations of sexual discrimination, these issues of sexual harassment, some issues of inequality, unequal pay. It sounds toxic from the allegations, and the defense that has been raised so far has been one that whatever, if there is true that there was any dispute, has been resolved, and generally Blizzard have denied. So, and they're trying to explain that it looks like they're trying to explain that what happened, if it did happen, was inaccurately interpreted to be the allegations. It sounds like
Yeah.
that so far, right? Yeah.
They
So
mentioned that it was like old or inaccurate, you know, the stories, or like taken out of context, not really taking any accountability. Like.
yeah, but the problem for Blizzard is that there is a sheer volume of allegations. I'm
Mm,
not at all here suggesting that if 10 people say the same lie, then it's the truth. Sometimes, in fact, not sometimes, a singular truth is far more powerful than a million lies. So you just need one person to tell the truth. The 1 million lies can disappear. So in this case, the perception is that there's just so many people complaining against Blizzard. on all this, isn't it, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the law. Okay, so there's allegation, which we can't go into detail because we don't know the facts. We are not aware of the decision yet. And from what I can read here so far, Kimberly, I think the Los Angeles Superior Court have not heard this case yet. Have not.
No.
They haven't actually, like what we watch on television, a judge listening to the arguments, yada yada. Right? I can't
From
find any.
yeah. From what I read, also, I think Blizzard, Activision Blizzard was also sued by the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and it was settled later on. But the last update, I think, was around late October or something, where Activision Blizzard requested for the lawsuit to be stayed until that claim is investigated and completed. You know,
Okay,
but
interesting.
I believe it was denied. So, but this was filed around late July, so I don't think it has been heard or there's no decision made yet.
Okay. In case anybody here wants to ask any question, just put the comments on the comment box, and then we will be able to see here in StreamYard. We will be able to reply to you. Now, let's talk about the law. Let's apply this. Okay, first is an esports background. So while esports have their own laws and rules in the games, but I think what you just talked about, Kim, in Malaysia is probably employment issues.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue of tort. So those of you here who may not understand what is the word tort, is spelled as T-O-R-T, not T-H-O-U-G-H-T. The law of tort is a law which governs things like negligence. You know, if I sell you a bottle of drinks and inside the drinks is unfortunately a small snail was swimming in the drink, you'll be like, oh my God, horrified, and you will sue because I negligently allow the snail to go into the drink. That is a thought of negligence. The other one is a thought of occupies liability. You know, you walk into a shopping mall, they didn't put a signboard, a yellow signboard or whatever color it is on the floor, that the floor is wet. You stepped on it and you fall down. In theory, you can file a suit for the negligence of the owner of the building. So those are all, ladies and gentlemen, the law of tort. This is like a free legal tuition for them, isn't it? After all, it's legal clinic, yeah. But so we are now dealing with the thought of harassment, right, Kimberly? Thought of harassment. So we have one issue of employment law, two, the issue of thought of harassment. What about this issue of the discrimination? They were discriminated. Now in Malaysia,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have like a anti-discriminatory body, right? I think the closest we have will be the police. If someone discriminates you, you may launch a police report, or you sue them for discriminating. I suppose it'd be another law of thought there, thought of discrimination, I suppose. Then let's talk also later on, not now, the whether there's any court cases in Malaysia pertaining to sexual harassment. And I remembered there is also the proposed bill of parliament in Malaysia, Kim,
Yep.
to propose anti-sexual harassment laws in employment laws, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that. So if this happens in Malaysia, of course we don't have the Department of DFEH or whatever. We don't have that in Malaysia. In that form that they have in America, we don't have a replica here in Malaysia. So therefore, if anybody file a suit against someone like Blizzard in Malaysia, it's probably going to be a private suit, isn't it, Kim?
To
It's
the
going to be,
labor court,
I
perhaps.
suppose, for labor offences, or you go to High Court lah.
Mm.
High Court, yeah. because industrial court is only when you want to reinstate, you've been constructively dismissed, which we will discuss later. You've been constructively dismissed or unfairly dismissed. You now apply to industrial court to ask the court to be that you be reinstated in the company, and
Mm-hmm.
or if you can't get reinstatement because it's now too difficult to go back, you get financial compensation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But in this case of sexual harassment and discriminatory, I don't think we can go to industrial court.
Mm.
I stand corrected. Then, but definitely we can go to the high court, or even sessions court to file a suit in the normal court where you allege that this person or this company discriminated against you or harassed you. That should be the situation in Malaysia. What other areas in before we go into industrial court and the laws of sexual harassment? What other areas, Kim?
Mm, I think that pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah, I think
The
so, right?
sexual harassment, discrimination, constructive dismissal, because some of the females left their job as a result of all of these unresolved issues by the
Let's talk.
HR.
Let's talk a little bit more about these sexual harassment issues because it's a
Mm.
prevalent problem,
Mm.
and in the last few weeks there have been a significant discussions on social media, Malaysian social media, and even reported in our local news portals of a uh, lady who has filed a suit against a law firm in Malaysia and a partner
Mm.
of the law firm in Malaysia. And the crux of the allegation of the lawsuit is sexual harassment. Now, um, what would we have to do, Kimberly? You were working before in another company before you joined RWC. So I
Mm.
remember you were doing a manager's job there.
Mm.
Why don't you now for 1 second, few seconds, wear a cap of that company? Uh, what were you guys doing the time to stop sexual harassment? Do you
Well,
had like a code of conduct, yada yada?
I think every company should have one, right? And but we just ran a small team, of like around 5 to 6 people, and we would always have appraisals or like one-to-one sessions just to check up on our staff. Not so much like a serious conversation, but like friend to friend, how's work, is there anything you want to bring to our attention. Basically, we make sure that the relationship between managers and bosses and employees are very um, friendly, where like you can confide in your boss if there's any issue at all. So it was a very safe space to have a
Mm,
conversation about anything you're struggling with, like basically at work. So we encourage that a lot, and we do a lot of like team bonding session, not so much
mm,
focusing on like talking about sexual harassment, but making sure that there's always someone that you can go to have those
interesting,
conversations, and
interesting.
obviously to prevent that from
Yeah.
happening.
So bringing that practical experience you had in your former company, I suppose as lawyers, we can advise all companies to have some sort of a code of conduct. They should have a human resource department, or some people call it a people's department, where the people in that department should curate curate a culture of safe work, where you feel everybody comes to work feeling safe, not just safe from robbers and thieves, but safe from your predatory colleagues, right? Both of both sexes. I think that should be the first thing we should do, right? And it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, Kimberly, if you any of you here do know, you can Google it now. The Malaysian government is going to propose the new anti-sexual harassment act of parliament. It was meant to be proposed, I think, about 1.5 years ago. They were talking about it and meant to be proposed. So they planned it 1.5 years ago and meant to be proposed in parliament last year. but there was a change of government in Malaysia, as you know, and you recall. So that bill was apparently delayed, but now it's coming back. Yeah. So in that bill, if I'm not mistaken, Kim, the parliamentary bill is actually defining what is sexual harassment, right? If you can find it now, Kim, can you read it out?
What I have is that it's been tabled to be read this month in
Correct.
December.
Mm.
Yeah, I
And
don't see the
remember,
actual bill.
we had a copy of it circulating in office. Remember, we I asked for a copy, and then I think someone shared it in our group.
What we do have is the Employment Amendment Act.
Yeah,
It
that's the
also
one.
talks about, yeah, it also talks about sexual harassment.
That's the
That
one.
one was
That's the one.
recently tabled in, I think, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken, October. Right? It doesn't specifically go into depth about sexual harassment, but it does increase the fine for employers who don't inquire into sexual harassment
Yeah.
complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think, good because like this Blizzard case, a lot of the employees actually complain to their HR department, but their HR department comprises of male employees, and then a lot of them are close to top management. So all
Mm.
of these inquiries are not weren't looked into, and then some of the stuff that was mentioned in confidence was, later on disclosed to those said higher management people because friends,
Mm.
and as a result, like those women in the company ended up facing like a punishment in the form of like extra workload, longer working hours, and stuff like that.
Mm.
So over here, at least with the change in this in the Employment Act, now the fine has been increased if employers don't actually inquire into these complaints made by employees.
Yeah, because what I understand is that the proposed bill
Mm,
has will impose a duty on employers
mm,
to maintain some sort of standards against sexual harassment, which
mm.
includes, I suppose, giving notice, giving, as we mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, a code of conduct,
Mm,
and uh, they, they also must have some sort of a anti sexual harassment policy, if I'm not mistaken. So
mm,
these are all for the Employment Act. I
mm.
remembered. But there's also another parliamentary bill, as you mentioned earlier, which is
Yeah.
dealing specifically about sexual harassment. Actually,
Sexual
there's not just
harassment.
sexual harassment. There's also they should deal with stalking.
Mm,
Then, of course, grooming. Grooming is a big problem. Not directly related. It's a
mm.
separate problem, but a problem nonetheless. And because actually grooming happens in employment too, especially the boss, male or female, usually it's a male, thinks that, oh, I'm the boss, I dominate the matter, sees a person that the boss likes, and say things and do things to groom that person to eventually like the boss, and that is wrong.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, that's wrong. Yeah. So we may have to deal with that too, that's why this area, what happened to Blizzard, honestly, if it happens in Malaysia, uh, it won't be so definitive like what is happening in US, Kimberly. In US, very
Mm-hmm.
definitive because of all these
Yeah.
complaints, all this allegation. That department step in and step up and say, we'll do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But in Malaysia, it's still very much self-regulated now. That means the company regulate themselves,
Mm.
right? And if you want to
Yeah.
complain, we can complain to the, like you said, labor office, or like I propose, file a suit, which may not be what you really want, but that is an
Yeah.
alternative remedy that you have, right? I would think it's more important that the company engage uh, with the employees, and then they have to get the employers have to change the mentality. Right? There must be a change of mentality. the days of certain employment domination must stop. So
Yeah.
well, anyway, it's going to be a very long and tough fight, Kimberly, to change
Yeah.
mentality. Right. Okay, we've been speaking for almost half an hour now. We started earlier at 3:50,
Mm.
3:55 to be fair. Now it's 4:20 already. In fact, on our time, we can see the word 31 minutes. So we have been speaking for 31 minutes already, live on Twitch. See, so fast, huh? Talk, 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 talk. 30 minutes already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Kim, is there any Malaysian court cases which we can maybe draw strength from? I know that you mentioned there was a sexual harassment case, right? And what happened there?
The one that I was talking about was actually a constructive dismissal case. It wasn't really related to. She didn't leave the company because of sexual harassment, but I did read very briefly a case on sexual harassment. It was a, I think, 2016 case,
Not
but
not Shelley's case, another case.
no, no, a different case. Yeah, but
Okay.
the only takeaway that I got from that case was that it's hard because it's hard for appellants because there isn't actually a definition for sexual harassment.
Hmm.
Yeah, so but I think in that case, I believe the claimant won and received damages for sexual harassment. But I didn't really go into depth into, and I didn't attach that case for you. Yeah, that is the
Yeah, we should read about that
constructive
because
dismissal
is
case.
it possible then now I ask
Mm,
that if a person is harassed and
mm,
complains to the human resource department, for example,
mm,
and the human resource department either take steps but not enough, or take
mm,
steps but not to the satisfaction of the victim, or worse, don't take steps at all. I say,
mm,
will that constitute constructive dismissal? Right, Kim?
mm,
There's
mm,
something for us to think about it, right?
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, for you who are like, what the hell is constructive dismissal? It is like this, where the employer creates an atmosphere or do something or act in certain way, or maybe even the workload itself create it or not create lah. It's in certain position where the employee can't take it anymore, and the only alternative the employee feels is that the employee has to leave the company, resign. So that is like in a way you were forced to resign in a way, and the law acknowledge such a resignation potentially to be constructive dismissal. So if you are able to prove in the industrial court, the special court for employment law, that uh, an employee was constructively dismissed because being harassed, being shouted at, being made difficult, late night schedule, all the video meetings at 11 p.m., for example, the worker cannot tahan already and resign, right? That may be sexual harassment. Sorry, that may be constructive dismissal. So, which leads us to ask whether if a employee is sexually harassed and forced to resign, can that employee then initiate an action in the industrial court that the employee was forced to resign and therefore constructively dismiss, which will then allow that worker, the employee, to claim damages, isn't it,
Mm,
Kim? Maybe
yeah.
our next legal aid, let's deal with that case.
Mm,
Let's talk about that
yeah.
area. About we will ask this question: if someone is harassed, if someone is discriminated, like in the Blizzard's case, they were even discriminated by color,
Mm,
racially. In Malaysia, is of course it's racial, yeah.
mm,
Uh, and Malaysians just love to discriminate each other based on race. Yeah. Our hobby, Malaysia. I don't know why Malaysians are. It's like so inbuilt into us to be racist. So, can that conduct, if it occurs to an employee, lead to a case of constructive dismissal, sexual harassment, discriminatory, toxicity, bully, all this.
Mm.
Can I say that I've been forced to resign? There are case laws on this point, and we will discuss that in the next legal aid clinic. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you summarize it? Um, Kim, it's only 4:25. It's only half an hour clinic. Let's summarize what happened in Blizzard, and let's talk about Malaysia again before we close up the night. I mean
Mhm.
the clinic. Yeah.
Okay, so in summary, basically, Blizzard was sued by the state of California on grounds of sexual discrimination in the workplace, gender based discrimination, misogyny, unequal pay. And right now, the suit is ongoing, I believe. There are other
Mm,
pending suits against Blizzard for unequal pay. And so this case hasn't been heard in the California courts yet. And in Malaysia, there aren't really any specific laws that describe or define what sexual harassment is, and I think the Malaysian government is working towards it, right? With the Employment Amendment Act, the bill, and also the Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill, which is to be tabled this month.
mm,
And in the Employment Amendment Act, they have proposed some changes with regards to discrimination in employment and sexual harassment in the workplace.
mm,
So it remains to be seen whether those will be implemented and when it will come into effect.
mm.
And I think it's a good step because there are a lot of cases happening. And in our next legal aid clinic, we will talk about constructive dismissal and whether all of these cases of like sexual harassment, discrimination,
Mm.
does it amount to constructive dismissal, and what can you do, and whether there are any case laws.
Yeah, let's do that
Mm.
because today we wanted to talk about Blizzard's case, right? We're
Yeah.
not going into the merits because we don't get sued for defamation later. Yeah,
Mm.
but basically, from what we can see from the allegations, there has been quite a series of um, toxic behavior,
Yeah.
alleged toxic behavior. Yeah, so it's something we have to sort out. Hopefully, the truth will appear. I mean, if it turns out that
Mm.
all the allegation is untrue, then I
Mm.
suppose Blizzard will feel vindicated.
Mm.
But I'm sure Blizzard will definitely then do something to ensure that uh, the company's good behavior. I mean, if it's untrue, means they are good behavior, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, if it's untrue and the time that Blizzard is actually good, then they will then probably need to do some PR exercise because it's definitely
Yeah.
hurting their reputation. Yeah, but of course, if the allegation turns out to be true, then I suppose as an employer, Blizzard has to take action, accountability, and responsibility to remedy this. Hmm? Yeah,
I
I
think it's
think the same thing.
interesting. Sorry to interject. I was just saying, I think it's interesting because from like a outsider's perspective, when I first read the stories on social media, it was there were a few stories about the alleged sexual harassment, right? But then
Mm,
only until I read the course paper and where they actually go into depth on all of the complaints, that I realized the how serious it is actually, because I didn't know that there were so many other things that they have done, and it's not just sexual harassment is very serious, but all of the other things that the female employees are facing also, like getting extra work just because they complain or like try to seek help, and all of these just continue to go like swept
mm,
under the carpet. Is terrible lah. So
yeah,
hopefully they are not true, and hopefully Blizzard
yeah.
is
Of course,
good, but yeah.
we are all still hoping that there's some eventually some truth will come out. We are not sure who's right, who's wrong. Like we have said, if the allegation turns out to be true, then the employer needs to do something about it. If the
Mm,
allegation turns out to be not true, then I suppose the employer will say, "Look, I've always been a good boy.
mm,
Please give me a chance. Blah blah blah, to move forward."
yeah.
We'll see how it goes, right?
Mhm.
Mm. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this very short 30 minutes legal clinic. You already heard our part 2 is coming up very soon, maybe next week or 2 weeks time. We only do this on Monday, subject to our schedule. We're very busy in office. Today we are able to squeeze this half an hour, and then I think Kimberly and I are going to go back to our work, sorting out other matters after this year. So thank you very much for joining us here. And those who are watching us, this if you are watching this from recorded version, let's say you're watching this in a few weeks from now, thank you for watching the recording. Do follow us on Twitch at Richard V Chambers, or our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn page is always very, very active. And Oling is here. Hi, Oling. Thank you so much. Appreciate her following us. Of course, Tiffany is a very well-known esports player and a former vice president of the Malaysian Esports Players Association. So thanks, Oling. So thanks a lot. Kim, anything final word to say?
No, nothing from me. Nothing further. I've talked enough.
Yeah, well done for first timer. Bagus, bagus. Keep it up. Yeah. Okay. Hold on first. Kim, we don't go yet. I'll just end the broadcast. Goodbye, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.